Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
Well, good afternoon. We don't typically do a podcast on a Friday, but this is a special occasion, so we decided to do it today. And you can always revisit the show. If you can't see the whole show on Friday, that's what's great about podcasts. You can always go back and, I can't say a rerun, but, well, I guess it is a rerun in a way. I don't know if anybody knows what a rerun is. But I'm very honored I have author Barry Scherr, who's written this amazing book. There it is right there. Can we see it okay? Bring it closer. Bring together the rebirth of the Piazza. Can you see it okay? One thing you can't see with this book, first of all, the texture is amazing. It's got some beautiful photos in there that are just amazing and really well thought out. And it's being sold on Amazon right now. But thank you for being here today, Barry.
I'm happy to be here. And I'm very pleased to talk about the rebirth of the Piazza because it's really something that's very timely in terms of what's happening in our country and even around the world.
What it is, and why did you feel at this time it was important to put the book out?
Well, the Piazza has been a staple of European life and also in Asia for centuries. And with the advent of the automobile here, we kind of lost our city centers. So the idea of the rebirth of the Piazza is really to reestablish walking city centers that we have around the world and other places.
So you're originally from where?
I was born in Baltimore.
Okay. Baltimore's got a lot of very beautiful architecture, by the way.
It does, yeah.
A lot of nice churches.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of very well-known, famous people throughout history have come from Baltimore. I like Edgar Allan Poe.
That's true.
Who was there from there? Babe Ruth came from there.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm leaving out a lot of other well-known individuals. Those are two that come to mind. But there's an older feel when you're there.
Yeah. To add to that point, growing up in Baltimore, you grew up in a community. So, 50 years ago, Baltimore was divided by different Italian community and Polish community and Jewish community and different communities, Italian. And so what happened is, growing up like that, when I got older and I moved to California, I saw the difference where everyone was sort of homogenized in a way, in a good way, but the automobile had kind of taken over and diminished the power of community life. So what the Piazza is a way to revive that experience of having a place where you go to really to grow up, not just to have lunch
or just, well, we had talked yesterday on the radio show, and we talked about how the Piazza was the internet.
Yeah.
In its own realistic way, because people communicate, they know what's going on. And you also mentioned, can we go back and talk about the story about the person that said that they don't have to send the emails out? Remember that?
Yeah. Well, the Piazza is a place that's the best possibility for balancing out social media, because what we have now is everyone is engaged in their telephone. But it used to be in a community, you saw your friends, family, relatives, intergenerational group of people who gathered every afternoon in the Piazza or every evening for a walk. So yeah. It's really reestablishing a community and social and interactive environment outside of the family. So we have the family, which is still has the idea of the home, but we lost the idea of the home for the community.
Where do you think that all happened?
Why it happened?
Yeah.
Really the automobile, because it started the idea that you could travel long distances on a daily basis. It created, this long distance commuting. It created the access to, let's say, places within 10, 20, 30 miles of your house on a daily basis. Whereas prior to the dominance of the automobile, people lived more in communities. They knew their neighbors. Now we know the whole world, but we don't know our neighbor anymore.
It's true. You said the car, and I've heard how that changed the way the whole country was run once the automobile and the freeways expanded. Of course, that was like later on. But the internet's also probably, and the iPhone, I would think, has probably had an impact on connection and in a different way.
Yeah, the electronic revolution is a fantastic thing as a tool. It's just not good as the only thing you have. So the way to balance it out is to develop a more profound feeling level between people again. And that's what the internet has really diminished. So it's not that we want to get rid of it. It's a wonderful invention. I'm not against science, but the experience of being together with other people, that's why the book's called Being Together, is really much more powerful than sitting on a computer and talking to someone or emailing with them. And I think a lot of young people really crave that experience. It's the first generation who grew up without that experience as the dominant human experience as it's been for hundreds of thousands of years. And they want to live in places now where they can walk and be with their friends and not be in this impersonal driving around all day long. So you get this massive demographic shift we had it going into New York, San Francisco, other places where there was more community and more fun things to do right on the street.
When you put this book together, you see you're very analytical. You think about things, about detail, because you can see the book. I mean, even not knowing you really well, when I looked at the book, first thing I noticed is the detail and the how powerful the photos were. They brought you in. How important were all these things when putting the book together?
Well, I learned a lot from the first book. I wrote a book before this called Enlightened Real Estate, which was the idea of understanding real estate and consciousness, real estate, and human development. But when that book came out, people loved the book, but they didn't have a takeaway. It wasn't something that resonated with their daily experience. So when I got to this book, and I live in Italy half the year for the last 20 years, and I saw the way people relate to each other there in comparison to people here. And so I said, okay, we're going to have to look into this Piazza thing. And as I looked into it, it was like I fell into an ocean of possibility. It wasn't just, the Piazza as we see it as an American tourist, where you have dinner or coffee or take a walk and look at a monument. It was actually a living, breathing part of the way Italians grow up and how they relate to each other and how they learn their culture. So it took me a while to really understand, even though I'd been there for years, what the significance was of the Piazza to an Italian person. Very different than the way we look at it.
Very much so. What is it about the Italian culture that really drew you into the Piazza?
The emphasis in Italy is on feelings, emotion, love. They even have two different versions of love. One is Ti amo, romantic love. Ti voglio bene, which is between parents and children, mother and child, which is I wish you well. So the idea, just like the story of in Alaska or in the Arctic, they have many names for snow because it snows all the time. In Italy, they have all different emotions and feelings about love because it's something that's just in the air. And when you're around it, you see that it's generated by this intense passion and emotional interaction between people that happens on a daily basis through every interaction. So while we see interactions as a vehicle for getting something done, they see getting something done as secondary to the emotional component. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, you go in the post office and they'll stand 10 minutes talking and no one says anything because they think the post office is for everyone to talk, not just buy a stamp. I mean, both.
Right. It's different. It's a different experience. Everybody here in the United States is running from place to place. Yes. We're geared to make that buck, to always be busy. The Italian people know how to really stop and enjoy life, don't they?
That's it. Well, that's what the Piazza is. If you look at what the people do in the evening, they're busy during the day, but in the evening they'll stop and take a walk, and because it's called a passeggiata, and that walk is everybody in the town's walking. So they see people, they see their friends, they fall in love, they meet people, they want to do something. That friend says you can call this person, and then the streets lead into the Piazza, and the Piazza is really the field of all possibility because the Piazza in the middle has an undefined purpose. So what we did in America is we made all the buildings have a very specific purpose, an office building, a shopping center, school, a hospital. But there they have this undifferentiated space where you just go in and there's no reason you're there except to be together. So it makes you stop. And there's no cars, so you can walk around, children can play. It's an intergenerational place. When you walk in there, you just forget about any issue you have, problem you have, just forget. Because now you're in the space of human emotion, human fun, and often surrounded by monuments that are very beautiful.
How hard do you think it would be for people to change the way they are, to slow down and enjoy piazzas?
I think it would take a little time, but I believe in human nature, and I think it's in our DNA to want to be together and to have an emotional experience. And I think young people are really excited about the idea, particularly because they see that it's a problem to not have this place to connect every day, that everything's become sort of separated out.
Do you think people, especially the younger people, once the pandemic hit, do you think maybe they reevaluated really what was important?
I think the whole society did. I mean, you could certainly make the argument that the pandemic was sort of designed to make us remember who we really are, in the sense that it separated people away from their families, from their friends. And I think when it was over, people had woken up a lot to how important it was that human interaction was not a secondary thing, it's very primary. And I think that was especially important in America because the country has been so successful with the field of action, especially California, because that's where we are today,
Right.
where there's so many amazing companies, so many brilliant people working all this technological advance that's created a whole new world. That world needs to be balanced out so that people can have a more a lifestyle that reflects more how we really come to be happy.
Because you're aware of Piazza and the lifestyles we're talking about, and you live there half the time, meaning Italy, Tuscany, right?
Yeah.
6 months out of the year, and then the other 6 months in Florida
Well,
somewhere.
it's like maybe 7 and 5 in Italy.
Okay. How hard is it for you to adjust and adapt in Florida once you've come back from Tuscany?
Well, I like both equally, so it's not hard for me, but it's more shocking than hard
Right?
because it's a very different perspective on what it means to meet another person. When you meet a person in Italy, everyone thinks it's a blessing and something great's going to happen. And in America, there's more caution associated with meeting a new person. Like, is this person going to cause me a problem? Do they want something from me? It's more transactional. And this transactional behavior is what's creating a lot of social problems because the magic of life is serendipity. It's who knows what's going to happen. So when you're already putting a label on something that hasn't even happened, whereas they're like, who knows what's going to happen? I'm happy to meet this person. They have something to tell me that's a gift from God. Why are they coming to me?
So, of everything we talked about so far, the Piazza, lifestyle, coming together, love, is that word again? Do you feel you were able to get all that into this book?
The book is a good start on that. It's not 100%. I'm working on another one. But what it does is it describes the Piazza in a way that people don't really know very well here. And even the Italians are excited about it because they feel like I've really described it in a way that's very interesting to them. Piazza is a square or rectangle city center, town square that doesn't have cars for the most part and has around the four sides outdoor restaurant seating. And for instance, the Piazza della Repubblica in Florence, where I live, there's a Hard Rock Cafe, an Apple store. Then there's 400-year-old cafes. There's outdoor stages where music's played. There's street singers who are really amazing. And so it's a kind of amalgamation. That's the word. Amalgamation of all these different things going on simultaneously. So you can go there and run your errands, go to the post office, see people. It's like the whole thing's happening at once. And the reason that that's very different because there's kind of a flow to it. You walk in, you sit down, maybe you have lunch, somebody comes by and says hello. And I was sitting there on a tour of the piazzas, and the wind came by and knocked over a painter's brushes and materials. About 30, 40 things fell on the ground. And immediately, about 20 people helped them pick it up. And the whole pickup process was about 90 seconds. And even the waiter stopped. So everyone helped him immediately. And it was just a natural thing. They didn't think about, oh, I'm in a hurry, I can't do this. I mean, I'm afraid here probably he'd be picking up most of it by himself, which is not the end of the world, but the idea for people there is to do something together. Our idea here is to be an individual. We're probably a little bit too much that way. Maybe they're a little bit too much that way, but in between is a good reality. So
we can learn from each other.
Yes, that's absolutely it. That's absolutely.
And I have to tell you, I appreciate getting the chance to meet you because I'm always trying to find ways myself to kind of like unplug myself from the phone. And I think my kids and my wife probably get tired of hearing me say it all the time. I'm like, you can't get time back.
Well, the hidden secret of life is that behind activity is a much bigger gift than anything activity can even give you, which is this emotional connection with other people, which turns out to be one of the main ways to become healthy. It's even more important than the food you eat. I mean, food is critical, the quality of the food, the purity of it, but even more critical is the quality of emotions. And this interaction between people stimulates intelligence, health, happiness, everything. And that's why people love going to Italy, because when they step off the plane, it just starts immediately. And what it is, it's not a judgmental thing. It's not looking at the person in a transactional way. What are you going to do for me? It's just, there's another human being. with the same soul. It's called anima in Italian. It's looking at the other person saying, hi, I'm divine, you're divine, we're all God's children, we're here to enjoy life. So even if I had a friend, he told me to talk to his mother. So I said, what are we talking about? She said, well, every day, she lived a little bit in Tuscany. She said, every day I go down to the Piazza, and my husband died. So I'm a little upset. So I don't really want to say it's me, but I go around and tell the people in the Piazza that that my friend has a problem, this problem, that problem. Can you give them some advice? So she says, and I get all the advice from the people, and then I go home happy because they didn't know it was me, and they probably really know it's me. But I'm sharing these issues I had, and they just go away. So, but the real thing is that when we stop, there's a whole field of life that opens up. That's much bigger than anything activity ever does. Although they're both important, but
I love the book. I love what you had to say. We've never had a show on a subject like this. I thought it was very unique. And I hope there's people out there that, heard what Barry said. And of course, you can pick the book up at Amazon. We're lucky to have a couple copies. It's a beautiful book. And we need to get back to the basics and just start learning about Piazza.
Thank you.
And more about it. And I look forward to seeing what you're going to do more in the future when it comes to the Piazza, and of course another book, hopefully.
Well, this was a great experience being here.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
It's an honor meeting you too. Okay, everybody, that was Barry Scherr. Everybody, if you get a chance, pick that great book up. I highly recommend it, and maybe have a nice glass of wine while you're reading it.
That's good.
Something from Italy, hopefully. Maybe a nice, a little bit nice, clean, organic salad of some kind, and maybe a nice lasagna. Something you like? I don't know, eggplant.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that, but anyway, maybe because I'm always hungry. Since I met him a couple days ago, I've been hungry. I don't know what that means.
No, you said it because the food is the moment that everyone stops. So it's it's a part of the culture of being human, and that's the one time of the day, no matter what you're doing, people will stop. And it used to be they were always with their family.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to reignite that experience of families eating together. The idea they have intergenerational experience more. And this will begin the process of healing this magic country we have, America, back into what it's actually a new version of the American dream, where it includes a wider range of experience.
Well, thank you for being here in your busy schedule, and
You're welcome.
also for having a nice lunch. Thank you for a great lunch.
Thank you for having me. It was really great.
I look forward to learning more from you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank my sponsors, because we would not have electricity and we would not have a place, of course. Thank you to Attorney King for his support and belief in my show. Thank you to Sequan Casino Spa and Resort. Also, Bonifaqueta, the Garage, very good Italian place in Coronado. I don't know if Barry's had a chance to go there, but they do a great job over there. And I'd like to say thank you, of course, to Marina Teal for what she's done, and also George Jackson. Thank you for your support in the teacher event. We look forward to partnering, and we've got some new sponsors that want to work with us that are coming up. Everybody take care, be nice to each other, slow down a little bit, turn your phone off, and go to the Piazza. Take care.